I made a list of all the social relationships that we're missing and that we don't even know that we're missing. I made it into this nice little chart here. I think that the importance of describing social relationships that we don't have is so that we can keep our eyes out for the things that we're missing so that we can look for it. Because you won't find what you can't describe. And you will find things that you look for. So these are things to look for. These are things to be aware of. You might find that some of these social relationships are important in a way where the other social relationships that you have or that you don't have but you think are really important to get just aren't as important. So I sorted this into underrated in green and overrated in red. And the underrated ones are things that you should be looking out for. The overrated ones are probably things that need less emphasis as a whole, I would say. So let's start with you. You're the central node in this large network of possible social relationships that you could have. And by just being that central node, you have a lot of, agency in making these connections. You have a lot of good that you can do for others, for the world, and doing things for others in the world can be good for yourself. Now, why are you overrated? Well, it's because socially we've been fed this message that you either need to take self-care days and really focus on yourself and really just help yourself and start with yourself first. Put your own gas mask on before helping others. Some truth to that, certainly. But it's also a very atomizing perspective. So is the Sigma grind set, I need to make $1 bajillion by staying alone, going monk mode, going eunuch mode, and locking yourself away in a room. And just grinding and working and staying in your little cave thinking that's going to change anything. So yeah, you're in this little bubble here, and you are highly overrated because you, as a little node, as an individual node, just aren't that important, and you never will be that important with other people. And if you want to live an important life, a meaningful life, you need others in it. I don't think that shouldn't be controversial. It feels very against the grain to say that, so people get very triggered when I say that. But yeah, it's true. You need people other than yourself in your life. Okay, but we all kind of understand that. There are some people who are just alone, and it's just them. Those people are, I feel sad thinking about those people. I don't want to think about it too much because it makes me too sad. But most of us understand we need friends and family. Friends and family, those are kind of the bread and butter of social relationships that we know we need. Now, not everybody, I guess, thinks we need friends. We live in very sick times. That'll be a thesis to this video. But yeah, I mean, you probably have a couple of friends, and you probably have some family. If you only have family, though, you might just feel like an earring, on your mom or something. Like, you might still feel mentally 12 years old because these are the relationships you start with. But as you grow, you realize you need more than just your family to be a full person. And then friends, maybe you have a couple of friends on Discord. But I'm not going to complain about Discord. Better than nothing. And maybe you have, a few friends here and there. But what happens when you have friends and family? What happens when you filled out those roles? Well, we assume that there's only one role left to fill out. Lover. This is the one that we all fantasize about. This is the one we dream about. This is the one we think will fix us. So we get into a series of relationships, and the relationships have all of the pressure of all these other social relationships concentrated over here. My point is, lover is a highly overrated concept. Don't get me wrong, okay? Romantic love is a beautiful thing. Being physically intimate with someone, it's nice. It's a part of life. It's a good part of life. It's also not the only thing that matters. I don't know why I have to say this, but I really can't get this through your skull enough. If this is all you have, you don't have much. And if this is all you have, if this falls apart, you have nothing. Because what happens when we get a lover, we spend less time with friends, we spend less time with family, we put all of our social relationships into this, all of the other social relationships we should have, the pressure of a mentor, a rival, an elder, an enemy, a peer, an acquaintance, a best friend, goes into your lover. And they cannot be all of those things. They never will be. So think about that. If you don't have a lover and you think a lover is going to fix you, no. This doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that for anybody. A good lover exists in the context of a broader community and is someone that is integrated with your broader community, so you guys can't just be sociopaths towards each other. So, yeah, I would say highly, highly overrated. So, moving on to some things that are underrated. How about best friend? Let's start with that. Remember being 5 and having best friends, and then you get older and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't be hierarchical with my friendships. Maybe you should. Maybe you should know some people that you can call up at 3 a.m. and cry towards. Maybe you should know some people that if stuff went south for you, that they would sacrifice their own personal well-being, at least in the short term, to help you out. Do you have these kinds of people? Do you have these sorts of people in your life? If you don't, maybe you should be making some deeper connections with your pre-existing friends so that you can have that kind of relationship with them. Maybe you should be that person to other people. Maybe you should be someone's best friend. It's worth considering, okay? But let's move on. Let's move on. Maybe that's not something you feel like you want, okay? Peers are people that do what you do. It can be if you're really good into breakdancing, then you have breakdancing peers. If me, I have an internet person community, and those are my peers. Some of them are my friends, some of them are friends and peers. But yeah, these are good ways of seeing yourself and other people, in having a hierarchy to compete with. You know, if you're doing really well on YouTube, then you can feel good about it because you're doing better than the people around you, and you have like a sort of barometer for if you are doing well. And if you don't have real people in your life, then your peers are just like online people. And then what? You're competing with fake people that don't exist, that you don't know, and that will not celebrate your wins with you, that will not mourn your losses with you. What do you have if you don't have peers? But this is still kind of rated because, these are also your coworkers. And maybe your coworkers are all online or something, and that's not ideal, but still, we typically have these as we get into work. And you have these built in when you go to something like school or university. You find your peers there. This is also a good way of making acquaintances. And you should have acquaintances too. Yeah, that's right. You should have acquaintances. You should have people that you don't know very well, but they are possible connections that you could deepen and make into friends or make into peers, right? Mentors. This is probably the most underrated. Mentorship. I have a mentor. My relationship with my mentor has been long-lasting and constantly generative and positive. And people hear that I have a mentor, and they give me weird looks. They're like, this must be some sort of perverted relationship. An older guy? You're hanging out with someone not your exact number of age? And I find this very strange. I find this very deeply sick, actually, because to sublimate yourself, to subjugate yourself willingly to an older person, to replicate some of their traits, whether it is intelligence or success, career, personality, maybe it's their social circle that you're trying to replicate, to gain access to their resources, to their advice, their wisdom. This is so important, and no one has it. We used to have all of these, by the way. When we had communities, we would have all of these things, and then we forgot. We forgot. We got amnesia, and we decided, all we need is this, this, and that, and we don't even need really this and this. Mostly what we just need is that, lover. So, this has been way better for me than any lover. Like, just having someone to help me with my life who is similar to me, who I would like to be more like in some ways. Highly, highly underrated. I think when people look at me weird for having a mentor, I look at them weird for not having a mentor. I think it's kind of messed up that they don't, because it's such a useful, generative relationship. Now, a lot of people are like, well, what does the mentor get out of it? Imagine you're 40. Imagine you're 40 years old, and you have these skills, and you're successful in your field, but maybe you don't know a lot of people who really appreciate that. And a younger person comes up to you and is like, I really respect what you're doing. I'm a fan of you, and I want to do whatever I can to help you and to learn from you. You think you're not going to help that person? Of course you are. Everybody wants to replicate their pattern of behavior. That's why we put so much emphasis on the lover category, so we can just make a kid. But there's many ways of passing on your pattern of behavior, and one of them is just like, I don't know, ever heard of a special little guy called Jesus Christ? So mentorship is important, and it's good for the older person. It's good for the younger person. You want to find someone who's got some age on you, but that age has translated to actual wisdom. Not everybody older than you is wiser than you. This is a sad reality. Some people just stagnate mentally from the age of like 18. So find the right person. That can be a life-changing experience. Was for me. I'm in Toronto, and I have the community that I have because of my mentorship. That was my first big relationship that changed my life. And if you're like, oh, that's weird. I can't hang out with someone 10 years older than me. That's weird. Good luck. No, seriously, good luck. I wish you well. Try doing this life shit alone, because you'll find that it's kind of impossible. Okay. Mentor is kind of like in a broader kind of elder category. Elders are kind of rated because on one hand, they're boomers, and boomers tend to be, genuinely kind of confused and unhelpful about the state of the world and maybe give you negative wisdom or negative advice. But underrated because social relationships are typically just within your own age group right now. And it's super helpful to have perspectives from people who have been through what you've been at the same stage of life that you've been in and give you some context with the life that you're living. A community leader is kind of also in the elder category. Community leaders could be like a priest or like the guy in a meditation center, just like someone who's got some clout in some field and is running community events, and that's that person that is like the leader of that one community. Typically a spiritual community. I can't even think of like other kinds of community leaders right now because I've been so atomized brained that there's probably other social relationships that I'm missing here and I'm just not aware of, because I'm like figuring this out for myself right now, and I'm just realizing how many social relationships that I have not been like fulfilled in my entire life until very recently. So I'm figuring this out now as well. But yeah, a community leader probably also kind of important to have. But not the most important thing. Rival. Okay, a rival, I drew this overlapping with enemies and peers. A rival is someone that pushes you to be better and that you have some real fundamental disagreements with. But you would never want them to fail because you want to just be a little bit better than them. You want to keep competing against them, and you want to keep, smashing your own ideas against their ideas. And if it's like a peer rival relationship, it can be like a loving, positive relationship. You guys aren't trying to fuck each other over. You're trying to like make each other a better opponent to compete against. A good rival is someone who shares a lot of your traits and just has like a couple of different sliders twisted in a different direction. So these are like alternate versions of yourself that maybe like execute things in the same way that you do, but come to vastly different conclusions, or come to the same conclusion as you, but with vastly different executions. That's a good way of looking at it. A rival pushes you to be better. A rival makes you want to beat them, but not destroy them. And a good rivalry pushes both of you forward and makes both of you better people. Makes both of you challenged in your fundamental assumptions about the world. Rivalries are fun. They're good to have, and they're not an enemy. An enemy is someone you just want to crush under your heel. Speaking of which, enemies, these are people you just want to destroy. And I would also say enemy is underrated too, because some people are like, I have no enemies. And maybe it's because you don't know anybody or stand for anything. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought that having no enemies is a luxury of being an atomized motherfucker? It's a cope. It's a cope that makes you think, oh, well, I have no enemies. That must mean I'm a good person. I'm a good stoic. Maybe you should have an enemy or two. Maybe you should have someone you want to crush, like a bug. And I don't know. You'd probably do rival instead of enemy, but it's not such a bad thing to have enemies. It means that you have some sort of perspective or thing that you stand for. My enemies, myself, climate change, introverts, and people with antisocial personality disorder. Those are my enemies. I'll just repeat this. The point of this isn't to make you feel bad if you're lacking any of these things. The point is that you can be looking out for roles to fulfill you as you go through life. I didn't know I needed a mentor until I started, I guess maybe in university, looking out for one. And it took me a really long time to find one. But when I found one, I was like, aha, yes, this is what I needed. But I only found it because I was looking out for it, and I took the initiative to make it happen. And a lot of these relationships aren't going to happen because we live in sick times, and everyone's just thinking about this. If you go out and you are very explicit about, I need a mentor, I've been thinking about you as a mentor, you will be surprised how many people take that bait and go and be your mentor, because we all want more social relationships in our lives, and we just don't know it. The onus might be on you to take the initiative and be like the person that deepens a relationship with your friend until they are one of your best friends, until they are a ride or die friend, right? It might be on you to build a community out such that your lover is not the most important relationship in your life. And by the way, it's okay if the lover is the most important relationship to your life, but it shouldn't be your only one. It should not be your only one. It's not going to be a good relationship if it's your only one. Too much pressure on that node. So you see what I'm saying here, right? keep your eyes peeled for these relationships. Don't feel bad if you're missing a lover right now. And if you do have a lover right now and it's all you have and you feel like stuff is missing, this will be a better relationship if you have a mentor and a rival and peers and best friends. This will be a better situation. So I'm not saying go eunuch mode and go, asexual celibacy mode. Maybe that's for some people. But if you desire this, that's fine. But like integrate it into the rest of this. There's so many more relationships you're missing, and your life gets so much better when you have them in your life. If you feel like what you're doing is meaningless and nobody cares about you, I know if I died right now, I'd have a good funeral. There would be a lot of people there, and that's because of all of these. So I don't know if most people can say the same. I think it's sad. And I don't even know if I have all of the social relationships here that I should. I'm sure I'm missing some because I grew up only thinking about this and this and this and this sometimes. And it's just not enough to make you a full person. It's really not. I can't be more sincere about this. Like, get a mentor, get a rival. These push you to be better. You will be better as a person. You'll be happier. I don't know why I made a chart. I have autism.